Great afternoon, great evening. It is us once again. Welcome to the Choose to Forgive broadcast or podcast, I should say. Listen, we have had several series back to back talking to a lot of phenomenal people about the principle of forgiveness, how it would transform one's life or serve as a deterrent to the one's quality of life. And today is no different. We've got a few extra faces in the podcast with us today, and you get an opportunity to meet each and every one of them. But in the meantime, I want to say welcome again. Thank you so much for joining us. Today is the last podcast on the topic of forgiveness because this is the culmination as we lead to our grand victorious celebration of freedom that's going to be this Friday night. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. But before we dive into the conversation and you get a chance to meet who we have with us, Lady Norma or Dr. Norma McLaughlin, the forgiveness guru, would like to welcome you. So Lady Norma, come on in and say hello to everybody.
Hello, hello, hello. I am so happy to be with you again this Monday afternoon. But before I go any further, I would like to thank Dr. Anissa Short because she took my vision to bring to you all this information on forgiveness. And so without her, we probably would not have made it through. So Anissa, thank you so much. I want to publicly thank you for that.
You're very welcome, Dr. Norma. Thank you for trusting me with the assignment. I hope I served you well. So without further ado, let's get started. As you know, we have talked about forgiveness, the principle of forgiveness, and how one's choice to not even choose to forgive can have an adverse effect on various aspects of one's life. We talked about it from a mental health standpoint. We have talked about it from a spiritual standpoint, relationally, physically as well. And today is no different. We have none other than Dr. Michelle Van with Fantastic Solutions, all the way from the state of Kansas, who's going to be pouring into us and sharing a little more information about that topic in general and how it can affect one's quality of life, specifically their wellness. She's a life coach. She's a woman of God, but she's very passionate about one's wellness from varied capacities of life. We're going to talk to her. And then after that, you're going to hear a little bit from our other forgiveness guru, the coach herself, Miss Colette Burrell, all the way from the state of Ohio. She and Dr. Norma have partnered together to host a phenomenal retreat, and you're going to hear a little bit about that because if you want to participate, I heard from a little bird that there may be a few spaces left, okay? And then we have one or two other things we'll share with you. So without further ado, Dr. Van, thank you so much for hanging out with us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
Let's dive right in. I know you know what we're talking about, forgiveness.
Yes.
And as a life coach, as you and your husband pastor, I know you work in that capacity. You have worked in the educational arena for various years. You work with a lot of women with your nonprofit. So you wear many hats. You're a mom, entrepreneur. You wear many hats. You're one of those other super women that I know. I want to share with us how forgiveness has surfaced, or maybe one's choice not to forgive has surfaced in your interaction with some of your clients and those that you serve.
Well, I will just talk about myself because I can talk about other people, but I'll talk about myself. I think that one of the things that we see is that a lot of times we think that forgiveness is for the other person, but forgiveness is really for ourselves. And I know for myself, I wrote about this in one of the anthologies that I was a part of, but having a dad-size hole, when you have a bio father who chooses not to be a part of your life, and but you have to get past that, and you have to figure out, what am I going to do? And so every day I had to say with my mouth, I forgive him, until it got from my mouth to my ears and eventually to my heart.
Wow.
And I think that that's the hard part, is that, we can say we forgive. We can say, because the words are easy to say, but it's a whole lot harder for us to actually take that internally. And so I think that's the biggest thing. I thought it was kind of funny that she asked me to come and talk about forgiveness, because it's something I still struggle with.
Thanks.
I was like, oh, she's got jokes.
No, that's what we always talk about.
Yeah. Listen, I appreciate your transparency, because really what you shared in just that little snippet has been a resonating theme with all the conversations we've had, even with the mental health therapists. They talked about how one's choice or decision not to forgive begins to show up in various ways. Sometimes it's an internal thing. Sometimes it's seen externally. People deal with a lot of hostility and anger and rage, and it stems from forgiveness or their decision not to forgive. Your statement with regards to forgiveness being a gift that you give yourself. And then
Right.
your story of having a dad-sized hole, an emptiness because your biological father just was not there. And I know that a lot of people, men and women, can relate to that. Okay. So thank you for your transparency. Thank you for making it so plain and so clear that to say I forgive you is our words, but until it really hits our heart, does the forgiveness actually occur? And for also it reiterating what we've said before, is that forgiveness is a process. It's not
Yeah.
a one night wonder. It's not like baking a cake and you just throw all these ingredients together and voila, it's done. Sometimes it can be just that easy, but a lot of times and oftentimes, especially if it's something that's been lingering for decades and for years, it takes a while. So since
I'll tell you this other thing too, Dr. Short, is that and Holy Spirit just really within the last couple of weeks really began to deal with me about this, is that a lot of times we'll say that we have renounced things, or that we have, we have those verbal things of I forgive you, but there are doors and there are windows that are in our spirit that can be opened. Doors are designed to open, windows are designed to open, but some things have to be sealed. We can't just say I forgive and then just walk away, because that door can be reopened if we don't seal it up. And so I think that's one of the things that sometimes we don't realize is we go through these exercises, sometimes forgiveness exercises, sometimes forgiveness prayers, sometimes, we have other people pray for us. We go through these spiritual exercises, and we can do those. And for a moment, we'll have a momentary victory. But if we don't seal that, and we don't constantly walk in that, and we don't continue to practice that forgiveness, just like gratitude, if we don't continue to practice it, we can forget that we were set free, and we'll go back to what was coming.
That's good. I know our forgiveness guru, number one, Dr. Norma McLaughlin, wants to feed on that, because she's just talked about, you said something very similar to that in one of our previous podcasts about once something is relief, you have to fill it with something else. You want to touch on that a little bit, Dr. Norma, again?
Yes, we said that once we have forgiven, we have done that. But of course, Satan is going to come back and to that empty spot, that empty hole that you've practiced your forgiveness. So you have to fill that. You've got to fill it with scripture, prayer, whatever, until you get to that point where you don't have the pain when you think about it anymore. But of course, if you don't fill that hole that you have been forgiven, then of course it's going to come back. You're not going to be able to walk that walk that you went. And most people keep saying, or they'll call me and say, I'm trying, but I'm still having issues. But you're having issues because you're not doing the scriptures, you're not doing the things that we gave you to do in order to overcome. Just because you prayed about it, you asked God to forgive you, you said I forgive, but there's another step in that lifestyle of forgiveness.
That's good. I'm glad you said the lifestyle, because it's a common practice. We talked in previous episodes about that the decision to forgive is a choice. But once you choose it, it's not necessarily for just that one incident or that one occurrence. It becomes a part of who you are. So with every experience that you have, you adopt that principle of forgiveness. And sometimes, of course, as we said earlier, it can be more immediate. Sometimes it's going to take a little while longer, because, of course, I guess it depends on the circumstance and who did what, or what the series of events that were around it. Lady Norma, you and the coach herself, Ms. Colette Harrell, have been very engaged, I think, 3 or 4 years on hosting forgiveness retreats, where you have an intimate setting with groups of people, small groups of people, and you offer them group counseling, one-on-one counseling. There's a lot of work that's done at these retreats. Let's just put it that way. Now, I have not attended any of them, but Miss Colette, we wanted you to come because you're one of the gurus of you and Lady Norma tag team. Remember in wrestling, when they used to have
Yes.
the tag
Yes.
team, and one would clap, but they had to tag each other for the other one to come into the ring. I
And there's some wrestling going on up in those Tennessee mountains, honey. We're not wrestling bears, but we're wrestling bear-like tendencies, okay?
Exactly. So, Ms. Colette, to Dr. Van's point and to what Dr. Norma has already shared with regards to forgiveness being a process, jump in and tell us a little bit about your personal experience as a coach. Maybe even if you want to share something from a transparent personal experience, but definitely as a coach and at the retreats that you all have hosted and that will be going on in September of this year. Shed a little light on how that's all come about.
Well, let me take a little step back and even talk about how miraculous it is for us to even be doing these retreats together. In 2018, I suffered a lot of hurt, a lot of relationship hurt from family and closest friends. And when I got into 2019, January, in prayer time, God said, I'm going to take you through forgiveness. And I thought, oh, okay, because I'm mad at all these people. I know you got a lot of work to do with me because I'm walking around here with some pain. I got some boulder sized things I'm carrying. It's heavy, baby. And so time passed and I'm working on me. But how many people know he never has you? He's a great God of addition. He never has you work on one thing. He's always having you work on multiple things, even if you don't know about it. And one of the greatest statements I've heard in the last 5 years was from Paul Young, who wrote The Shack, who said that we as people play checkers, but God plays three-dimensional chess. And so while I'm playing checkers and trying to work through this forgiveness thing in January, he's working on three-dimensional chess, touching and poking Dr. Norma, our first lady here, all the way in North Carolina. So when I see her again in North Carolina at a conference that was supposed to be about faith, but it ended up being all about forgiveness. And we met in Las Vegas. God, it's like Hind's feet. You go everywhere to get to where he wants you to be. We met in Las Vegas, met again in North Carolina, and we only spoke, I think, in North Carolina, maybe 20 minutes.
Not long.
But she gets home and God won't let her have her peace until she reaches out to me and says, hey, I got this idea to do these retreats. God keeps giving me you. And then I go back to January and go, okay, God, we're going to work through forgiveness. So I'm making it about me and you're making it about the people that we serve in the kingdom and outside the kingdom. And how many people know if we can get free in unforgiveness and get to forgiveness, many of us can come into the kingdom. Sometimes we got church hurt on why we can't go.
Come on.
Come on now. There's so many types of hurt. And so here we are. And she's yin to my yang, peanut butter to my jelly. So she says one thing and I've got the second thing, or I say it and she's got it. So she says, I got the retreat, but I don't know where it is. I said, I know where it is. It's in the Smoky Mountains. And how many people know God meets you in the mountains? There's something majestic about being there in that clean air and hearing God. Amen. And we're taking these women up here, and lo and behold, the hurt that they're carrying is heavy. And I'm recognizing it, and she's recognizing it because we've walked through it ourselves. And so, and you asked me what was my transparency, my personal story, was that when I got to the conference that I thought was on faith, or was on forgiveness in March, I had a 4 a.m. wake-up call from God. I woke up sobbing in my sleep with God telling me to forgive. If you're going to go where I want you to go, if you're going to do what I want you to do, you can't carry what you carry. I need you to leave those memories alone and carry only those memories light enough to pack. So I had to do that up in those mountains, and we were in Tennessee we were in North Carolina. But when I got back and I heard from Dr. Norma, I was just amazed at how he was moving strategically to bring about this forgiveness journey that we're taking with everyone. And the retreat is fantastic. The first retreat, we were validated by God. I feel like he put his stamp of validation on it because we were doing one-on-one prayer time with each individual that comes up, giving them our complete attention, being intentional in our prayer time with them. And our prayers were floating down to a cabin further down in the mountains. And these people came up, walked into the house. Norma and I are like, oh, we too loud because we raised and sang. And they said, no, y'all having church. And could you pray for us?
Wow.
Now, I want you to know that in this climate of today, these were not people from our mothers, but these were people from another mother. You know, the diversity came into the room. And yet and still they came over and lifted their hands and said, can you pray for us? She's terminally ill. She's been given what, 2 months?
Mm-hmm. They were on a trip there for their last memories together.
Wow.
Can you imagine God sending them into this cabin that's full of forgiveness? That we're working through pain so we can get free. And I'm sorry to report that we cannot tell you what the outcome was, but I can tell you what it did for all of us in that cabin to know that God would send them in. So we believe it's God ordained. We know that it's a journey. We talked earlier about the process. We know some people get supernaturally freed, but most of us work in this process. And once we learn those tools, and we talked about how to seal it so we're not continually getting bombarded by unforgiveness. Once we learn to walk in those tools, we can stay free. And so I'm excited that there's a couple of openings available. We're going again September the 8th. So whatever way you can connect with us through here, please connect with us. We want to see you there. We want to see you free. It's our passion for you to be free. And you're connecting with people who have walked through this process before you ever had to get there.
That's phenomenal. Thank you so much, Ms. Colette. One of the things I'll say is, as you were speaking, is that you often hear that a lot of times what we go through or what we experience and choose to go through and grow from ends up being the gift that we can give someone else, right? So here we have Dr. Michelle Van. She's an educator working with folks' children. How much forgiveness do you think you need to be able to work with folks' children and the parents?
Come on.
So we won't even go there. But, you know, when you think about having the voids in your life and then having to grow through that to become a stronger person, you are better equipped to even to be able to communicate or to minister or to serve the people that you are called to, which are the children, because you know what that's how to be able to work better with children when you can understand the dynamics of what they have going through or what they're experiencing. You're able to better work with the women that you are called to, Dr. Michelle Van, if I can make that a presumption, because of the things that you've had to go through and grow through. Ms. Colette, because you and Lady Norma are in leadership positions in ministry and you're called to women, some of the things that you felt like, you know, throwing in the towel for are the very things that help you grow up. So then you are better able or have been, as one of my pastors used to say, capacitized. I don't know if you found that word, but you took capacity and he made it work. He said, you're better equipped to be able to serve in that capacity. So yes, I've heard a lot of great things about the retreat. I've not gone, as I said before, but then in addition to people getting freedom or experiencing a measure of freedom, I understand you have a cook that comes and they take care of the breakfast, the lunch, the dinner, and all the snacks in between. And then it's up in the mountains. The atmosphere is conducive to relaxation and being able to journal and to have retrospect and all of that good stuff. So again, how many spaces are available? I was told it was about 3 spots.
I think there are 3 spots available now.
I think there's 3 spots available. People should know it's a luxury cabin. They're usually $1 million luxury cabins that we stay in. The food is phenomenal. We feed you 3 times a day, and we have a 24-hour snack bar with, cakes and pies and fruit for those who are doing the right thing and want to eat fruit or granola bars. We have that. We are really positioned to bless the people that come up.
That's wonderful.
They encounter, we give out gift baskets. They get a forgiveness curriculum manual that they bring home. We have illustrations and demonstrations. So we spend time in group. We spend time one-on-one. People come back afterwards and have made friendships that still go on today. The people from 2019 are still in relationship with people in 2022. They met up in those mountains. And so it's a phenomenal time. It's a safe place. Everything that's said within those walls stays within those walls. And people just are really relieved to come home. We have a graduation ceremony that's fantastic. We just have a really great time, and we all leave better for it.
That sounds phenomenal. So, Dr. Michelle, before we shift gears, I want to come back to you. Is there anything? I know you're very much a proponent of wellness. That's one of your hats. We talked about you being an educator. We talked about your work with youth as well as women. But from a wellness aspect, has the principle or the necessity of forgiveness come about in your coaching people with regards to wellness?
Yeah. So when you think about wellness and you think about forgiveness, some of the reasons why people are not well physically and mentally is because they have the torment of unforgiveness. And so there's just those pieces in which unforgiveness, forgiveness is not for the other person, it's really for you. And so when I'm holding things, when I'm holding animosity, when I'm holding bitterness, when I'm holding anger, when I'm holding all of those things inside of me, our bodies were not designed to carry that. So therefore, there's some breakdown that begins to happen internally. And so we start to see where we're having those mental health issues, where we're struggling with, depression, where we're struggling with eating disorders, where we're struggling with ulcers, where we're struggling with just various things that happened in our body. We're holding on to things that were never designed.
Wow. And you know what? I took one phrase. You said the torment of unforgiveness. The torment of unforgiveness. So when we choose not to forgive, what we're doing is causing torment to ourselves without even knowing it, because it begins to show up or begins to transform into other things that we oftentimes don't associate. That's one of the things I have gained from us hosting these podcasts, thanks to Dr. Norma's vision, is because the conversations, everybody is saying the same thing from a different perspective. We have had life coaches, we've had mental health therapists, we've had spiritual advisors, pastors, people that are active in ministry. They have all said the same thing from their varied walks of life. They function in varied capacities, but they have that common denominator where they have seen that the mental health therapist says this is what's going on. They're dealing with anxiety. They're dealing with depression. They're dealing with all of these other, what we call mental diagnoses. And that the common denominator is they won't forgive, or they've harbored something for too long or so long that it begins to manifest in other ways. So Dr. Norma, thank you for this vision, because it's informational, but it's also transformational for those who choose to receive and apply it. That's one thing. Once it has been revealed to you, the information has been given to you, it's up to you to do what you need to do with it. You are no longer you are without excuse. We are without excuse. At least I know I am. So the practice or the lifestyle of forgiveness is a gift that you give yourself. And when you choose to forgive, when you choose to walk in a lifestyle where forgiveness is your mantra, where forgiveness becomes your way of life, and what you choose to adapt in your walk of life, you walk in a measure of freedom that no one can explain.
Amen.
Peace that
it's roots and
it's a fruit, right? Exactly. And so that's one of the reasons why this gala that's coming up. Let's talk about it. We're gonna get dressed up and look cute.
You don't have to fly in, Michelle.
Yes, it's not too late, Michelle. But the thing about it is that we've chosen the gala. The gala is a celebration of freedom. because forgiveness is a gift that you give yourself. Forgiveness is freedom, Dr. Norma has always said. And so this gala is a celebration of freedom. It's the culmination of everything. Many of our podcasters, our guests that have been on our podcast, are going to be our special guests. We have an MC. We have a lot of little goodies. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you all, we've been promoting this for a while now. So if you did not RSVP and buy your ticket, you'll have to see the highlights after the fact, because it's sold out. Now, Michelle, because you are a podcast host, we have a seat reserved for you just in case you can fly in. But if not, but here's the thing: we have from various people snippets from the varied podcast that we've already hosted, and this started in, oh my God, when did this start? Lady, know, was it June?
May.
We have gone several weeks, every Monday for several weeks. So we've got content from the podcast. We have personal testimonies. We have got contributions from our forgiveness gurus, none other than Dr. Norma McLaughlin and Coach Colette Harrell. And we have compiled a documentary. So Forgiveness is Freedom is a documentary on forgiveness, okay? Mm-hmm. And so at the gala, we will be launching or premiering the documentary. Not only that, look, as they say in the commercials, but wait, that's not all.
I love it.
I know we have Chosen Pen Publishing and Chosen to Soar hosted a writer's retreat. And Dr. Michelle was one of the attendees of the writer's retreat. And we had the opportunity of partnering with a top best-selling author, USA Today selling author, Miss Olivia Gaines. And so a book is in the process. It's being birthed as we speak. And of course, the book is called The Retreat. It's an anthology. It is due to be premiering within several weeks now, but we'll be unveiling the book, because the book, of course, itself is called The Retreat. The content of it is a storyline that is based in Jamaica, because that's where the retreat was, in Jamaica. Mm-hmm. But the biggest element of the book, the featured element of the book, has to do with forgiveness. So at this gala, we will be unveiling the book, but we also will be premiering the documentary. This, again, is just another aspect of Dr. Norma's vision, along with Coach Colette Harrell. They put their minds together, and then they volunteer people like me to be a part of it.
Okay.
Tell us how excited you are about the gala. Give us some insight on what this means to you to see it all come about.
I'm excited beyond belief, because when you sit somewhere and you start throwing things against the wall, I'm always excited on what sticks and then gets legs and walks. And so for this documentary to be ready, for this gala to be on and popping, I mean, we just came out of Jamaica. We got for the book to be almost ready to go, for us unveiling the cover. This was a lot of small parts working simultaneously for you guys to be posting on Mondays. It's been amazing for us to already have the next retreat ready for September. Those are a lot of moving parts, and to see them all come together, to have a night to celebrate that we've come this far from that conversation in 2019 to where we are today, and I thank God that He is a God that moves from glory to glory, because Norma came in with it, and then the glory just kept coming, and it has been an amazing trip, and I'm so excited. I'm driving in from Ohio, and I'm bringing folks with me, and we just can't wait. And these are people who have gone to the retreat, and they can't wait to come together and celebrate the freedom that they've been living since they've come through the retreat.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. Okay, Lady Norma, what about you? Tell us how you're feeling.
I am just, I guess, overexcited. I am so excited about the culmination of this particular piece of forgiveness, that we've gone all these months trying to make sure that people who need help to overcome, that we provided some type of help for them. Hopefully they were able to receive it. If you weren't able to receive it, come right there to Chosen Pen Academy or chosenpen.com. We'll make sure you get some assistance. But that burden that I had to make sure that more people were able to get this information. And the best way we knew to get it was to put it out online. And so I thank God for that, because we went over this 4 types of unforgiveness, and people can look at that unforgiveness and move to forgiveness. And we also have a lifestyle forgiveness piece that once you do that, you need to join the group and be able to come in and get assistance with that, because we know forgiveness, we need forgiveness every day. There are little things that happen in our lives daily that we sometimes try to say, okay, well, it's not so bad. But once you've forgiven, and once you start putting those scriptures in your heart and living that lifestyle, it's easier for somebody step on your toe. You say, oh, that's okay, I forgive you, and move on. Or whatever little thing that happens that we sometimes think is not a part that that needs to be forgiven. But we do know if we do not forgive, it doesn't matter how big or how small, that we do not enter into the kingdom of heaven.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So here's what I like to add, and some of you know this, for those, especially those who've been following us, is that the whole forgiveness concept, the teaching of forgiveness, started within 4 walls of Dr. Norma's home, if I say that correct, church or home.
Yes.
When she did Bible studies with women in her church on forgiveness. So it was class number 1, and then class number 2. They got numbers, they got special names at New Life. But anyway, so I think it was a series of 7 or 8 groups that went through the whole curriculum of the Bible studies. So then the Bible studies evolved into a retreat, and a retreat involved into books being written on the necessity of forgiveness. And now this podcast, and now, of course, it's grown into a documentary. So I shared all of that to say this, is that oftentimes, especially for those who are people in ministry, those who are functioning in whatever capacities, is that the message of forgiveness, the principle of forgiveness, is not just simply for the 4 walls of your church or for just a congress. It can start there. Don't get me wrong. It should start at home first, and it should branch out. And so I really believe that what Dr. Norma and Miss Colette have done, Coach Colette have done, they've provided us with a beautiful example of how ministry is for the marketplace, is for the masses. It's not just simply for those who profess to be Christians. It's for everybody, because forgiveness is something that serves as a benefit to everybody when they choose to apply it, the principles of forgiveness, to their life and to their walk of life and their lifestyles. And so you've opened up opportunities for people who may not go to your church. They may have, because of various hurts, past experiences, or just their background, not go to what we consider the traditional church, but they would be super excited about going to Jamaica. They would be super excited about going to the Smoky Mountains, excuse me, and getting what it is they need. Ladies, we have talked for about 33 minutes. We don't want to hold you any longer than we have to, but I do want us to go around one by one. And let's start with our awesome guest, Coach Colette, and then we'll go with Dr. Michelle, and then Lady Norma will end with you. What is the one bit of information, the one caveat you would hope people would take away when it comes to the principle or the life application of forgiveness?
I would say to remember that to forgive people does not necessarily mean to usher them back into your life. And that for many people, that is a stronghold in their lives, that they feel that to forgive means they open the door for relationship, and forgiveness is not reconciliation. And so forgiveness is separate, and forgiveness is a selfish act. It's for you, right?
Right.
And so if we remember that forgiveness is to let you get free, and that reconciliation means open the door, we're not asking you to open the door back up to relationship. We're asking you to get free.
I totally agree. Totally agree with you. And I would say that the other thing that I would say is that if you can forgive quickly, then it doesn't allow for there to get roots on that situation, because when that situation gets roots, that's when it's harder to pluck up. And so the faster that you can get that out of you, the faster you can forgive the person, the faster you can move on, the easier it is for you to be able to move on. And sometimes, we feel like we're putting up walls to protect ourselves. And a lot of times those walls just become our prisons. And so as we are thinking about how do we process forward, how do we move forward, how do we, walk in that forgiveness, sometimes it's just taking that wall down brick by brick and, exchanging it for something else and reframing the situation so that we can move forward.
That's good. Thank you so much. All right, Dr. Norma.
Okay, and of course mine is forgiveness is a lifestyle, which is my latest quote. But before we go, I would like to recognize Ms. Trazia Bennett Wallace, who is from Chosen One. She says to tell you hello, Dr. Michelle. She says hello, Colette. And then we have Jasmine, who says, of course, we're the best. They're the greatest, Chosen 7. So they're highly competitive. So we'll see what Friday
That's
night.
those Bible study groups, those forgiveness Bible study groups.
There are 11 of them.
Wow.
Also, I just wanted to make sure then I have my publishers on here. Is that who that is, Miss Tammy? Who's watching with us today. So she said this is powerful. Just wanted to let you all know. Tracy said amazing tools to help you on your journey to forgiveness. So we thank you. We thank you all for viewing with us and looking in with us. But my whole thing now I'm pushing is that forgiveness is a lifestyle. That even if once you forgive, if you think you don't have to forgive again, you do, that you need to practice forgiveness for the remainder of your life. And if you're expecting to be free, have joy, and have peace, then that's what we all need to do. Thank you.
That is so good. Thank you so much. I couldn't have said anything better myself. I thank you again, Dr. Norma, for the opportunity to be a part of this project. I've learned a lot. Oh, we just lost Michelle.
Yes.
She's had issues.
Thank God she was here to the end.
I know, right? She's there to the end. So this is the end of our this is the last podcast on forgiveness, I think. Who knows, right? We will be back because as the visionary, Dr. Norma, just as we were approaching the last podcast, she's like, well, I have something else in mind. So you will be back. We'll give you another topic. But thank you so much for joining us. For everyone who has supported us by watching and by sharing our podcast on this very important topic of forgiveness, we want to say thank you for being there for us. For those of you who have made the decision and secured your ticket and will be joining us on Friday night for the Celebration of Freedom, thank you. Of course, the tickets are sold out, so don't show up at the door because you won't get in. We don't have any more room. There is no room in the inn, as they say.
That's right.
We are excited about the celebration and the unveiling of the documentary. And once it becomes available to the public, we'll be letting you know more about that as well. So you could possibly take it and use it for your own group studies and your own Bible studies or your own sister circles or what have you, to be able to use it as content to be able to begin the conversations in your circles of influence. Dr. Norma, the forgiveness guru, Coach Colette, the forgiveness guru as well as Dr. Michelle Van, who is no longer here with us. I want to say thank you for another episode. It's been great. She's coming back. Thank you.
Yeah, it kicked me out.
No, you know about that. So technology won't let us be great, will it? It's just it is what it is. We just keeping it real. But thank you, Dr. Michelle, for choosing to be a part of this. We so appreciate your time on today. And you all be on the lookout. Follow us on Chosen Pen Publishing on Facebook. Chosen to Soar. Michelle Van, Dr. Michelle Van is Fantastic Solutions out of the state of Kansas. I was about to say Arkansas, but it's not Arkansas, it's Kansas.
And I say Wisconsin all the time.
I don't know why. She's out there in the Midwest. And then, of course, with Coach Colette from Ohio, a lot of great things are on the horizon. So just be sure to follow us, tag us, like us, follow us on Facebook, Instagram. We're there somewhere and then in the social media sphere, but we'll have additional projects coming on. Like we said, with the retreat, the forgiveness retreat is September. There are a few additional spaces. Oh, and we have a writer's retreat that's going to be a cruise. We're cruising to Dominican Republic and Turks in February, and another writer retreat with Olivia Gaines is our instructor, teacher, writing guru. I don't know what that's going to be about, but I know it's going to be great. So if you want more information about what Chosen Pen is doing, what Chosen to Soar is doing, what Fantastic Solutions got going, follow us on Facebook to stay in the know. In the meantime, thank you again for hanging out with us in this platform. We hope you've learned a lot. Make it a great night, everyone. We appreciate your time on today. Happy Monday evening.
Bye. Thank you.